Welcome back, everybody. Today is going to be a best short version summary I can do, possibly of 7.33. It is the huge patch we've been waiting for. I just spent literally 4 hours reading it. I'm actually super hyped about the patch. Tons of cool changes. Just a brief intro into what the changes are. First and foremost, the map is way different. The main differences are how many different jungle camps there are. So if you go down beneath the lanes, see how this is bottom lane, we have top lane up here. There's a whole world of jungle camps down here. So there's a big camp here, a camp here, a camp here, a camp over here. And then there's double amounts of outposts. They don't supply XP, and they're simply used for teleporting, but they work the same as old outposts. And then there's these little gates here on both sides of the map that you can neatly see, and you can use them to teleport from one side of the map to the other. So the reason why this is especially important is that you may see there are two Rosh pits. One on Radiant and one on Dire. So Rosh remains in this Rosh pit on Radiant when it's daytime, or on the night cycle, and he moves from this pit to this one at every 5-minute interval. So what he does is he walks out of base into the teleporter, teleports, and then walks into this one. So on top of that, there's a little lotus fountain on the side that drops lotuses every few minutes, and they basically are mangoes for health and mana. So you can stockpile those. So importantly, there are stocks of regen now. So like that's kind of counteracted by these. There's experience runes that spawn on the sides of the map every 7 minutes, and those have replaced Tome of Knowledge. There's a new mini boss on each side that effectively has an AoE blade mail that's equally distributed amongst heroes. And what the mini boss does is it spawns at 20 minutes, and if you kill it as a team, usually you'll have to use your team, one of the two lowest net worth heroes on your team will get an Ag Shard. So Rosh no longer drops Ag Shard, but now those do. And you can kill them again 10 minutes later, and they will be harder to kill, but they will drop another Ag Shard. There's a whole new Ancient camp all the way over here as well, so each team effectively kind of has a triangle again. The triangle, instead of like being this area right here, is now like a very much larger triangle. But there are two Ancient camps, which is quite relevant for a lot of Ancient farmers since they're pretty close together. There's actually a gate on both teams' side of their base right here that enemies cannot walk through. So if you see here, I can't go through here. So it's an area that accesses the mini-boss that only members of Dire can go through, just as the same as the Radiant has one over here. So there's a lot of little new features on the map. There's a new rune called the Shield Rune that gives you a damage block based on 50% of your HP, I believe. So what they did was that kills are now worth more gold, and lane creeps scale less. So there's like a ton more creeps on the map to hit in the jungle, but lane creeps are worth less and kills are worth more. So they're incentivizing people to hunt for more kills. And on top of that, every hero has 30 movement speed at nighttime. So they're really encouraging people to roam around the map and basically go from camp to camp and gank a lot more. So you may see these little dots on the map. These are effectively like the old outposts where you can take them, and it gives us vision of this area. As you can see here, it gives us vision of this little area. And if the opponent wants to kill them, then they have to channel it themselves on this. If they channel one that we already control, it'll kill it, and it respawns in 2 minutes. So there's a bunch of these little things for scouting Rosh. Outposts, as you can see, no longer supply vision, so these are kind of like replacing outposts on relevant parts of the map. So they're kind of like miniature outposts. And you can see here like a lotus. You can see that little lotus in the fountain that spawned, and we can pick it up by channeling on this for 1.5 seconds, and then it gives us a little lotus that restores 125 health and mana instantly. And it can be used on allies as well. So when you kill a neutral creep, instead of the old neutral item, it's now a neutral token that still drops 5 for the entire team, but instead of you getting an item and having to fight over it with your teammates, you get your own neutral token, and you get to choose between 5 items. Each team member gets to choose their own like 5 randomized items, And you guys can all buy the same item if you'd like. Like if we all got offered faded brooches and we all wanted faded brooches, then that's what we could do. But I can use any of these 5 items, and once I choose my item, that is my neutral item, and nobody else can use it. So really cool rework to neutral items. I really like the quality of life that they did there. So a big change, as you can see on this main page, is that there's now 4 attribute types. There's the 3 main ones, and then there's universal. So what they did for all these universal heroes, a lot of them are spell casting, like inter-strength heroes, or like intelligence heroes that are not traditional spellcasters. They tend to be right-clicking int heroes, or summons-based int heroes. Is that these heroes, they act the same as every other hero in the game, but they get 0.6 damage from every stat, rather than 1 damage from their primary stat. So a branch on all of these heroes is 1.8 damage. So basically, these heroes just treat stats a lot differently, and a lot of them got stats nerfs in order to compensate for how much damage they're getting, but some of them didn't, so we'll be talking about that. A major change is that Black King Bar got a massive nerf. They didn't change anything about its duration or its cooldown, but instead of supplying everything that it used to, it now only gives you 50% magic resistance. You can read up more about it if you'd like, but that's the major change. And it's a huge nerf to the item. But they also nerfed stuns. So every stun in the game is about 0.5 seconds shorter, maybe like 20% shorter, in order to compensate for like BKB being worse. So several heroes received reworks. We see Clinks, we see Arc Warden, Ogre, Medusa, and Alchemist. If you guys want to read up more about these reworks, definitely check them out. But they're a lot of fun. So they gave them, like, Alchemist, for instance. Grievel's Greed is now an innate ability that he starts with. And then you got a new ability. Medusa no longer has any strength. Ogre no longer has any int. So there are a lot of cool little reworks that you guys can definitely check out. So they've added 7 new items. I'd say the main one that I take note of is Harpoon. So Harpoon as an item, it's basically an Echo Saber upgrade that drags the enemy towards you from 700 range. So it works on heroes as well. So it's like a miniature blink for heroes that may want Echo Saber and blink, but they don't want to buy both because it takes up too many slots and doesn't really feel very good. So it's a nice little item that costs 4,500, so it's like a 2,000 gold upgrade on Echo Saber. So it is effectively like an Echo Saber blink that gives better stats. There's 7 new neutral items. The matchmaking system has a completely different rating now that, based on everything they're saying, it's meant to be an improvement. You will no longer be gaining 30 MMR flat per game, but it'll be based on the skill level of everyone in your game, but then also like how confident with their calculations that they are that the MMR of everyone in your game is accurate. So there's going to be like a max and minimum loss that you can have, but it's going to be similar to the old days where like effectively sometimes you get plus 20, sometimes you get plus 28. I don't know the exact numbers. I haven't checked it out myself, but that is how matchmaking is now done. So for any ability that provides you with damage block, like a Batten Shield, it now shows up on top of your hero bar, which is really nice as like an extra way to show that you have this health. It's like another health bar on top of your health bar, which is really cool. So neutral creeps do get more powerful as the game goes on. All of their abilities now have levels. The 4th level is only for Chen, because he upgrades their level with Ag Shard, which makes him kind of a Giga Chad. So one big item change is that Aetherlens no longer goes into Arc the Ring Core. It's more of like a regen item now, and it doesn't have cast range, which I think is a really important change. Boots give more movement speed to melee heroes. Phase boots are like basically they're increasing everybody's move speed to compensate for how much bigger the map is. Every stun in the game got lowered on abilities, but also on items. Like you can see here, Sheep is now lower. Urn of Shadows now gives you a charge if you die. So this helps with coming back with like Spirit Vessel and not having any charges. And this works if you guys die to neutrals. We did test this. So if you're a support, you need a Spirit Vessel charge. You guys can't find kills for the life of you. You can go sacrifice yourself to some ancient creeps, and you will get a Spirit Vessel charge. Thank God, got rid of Wraith Pact. We were waiting for that last time. The conceptually most annoying item in the game. Thank God it's gone. We love you. Another big note is they did change a lot of neutral items. And most notably, on Tier 4, they removed all of the things that dispel you. Stormcrafter no longer has the dispel, and they removed the other 2. So what that means is that you no longer have to worry about your Orchids and Atoses getting dispelled by neutral items, which is really nice. I thought that was a really good change. So now we'll just talk about like 10 to 15 heroes that I want to try based on their changes. So number one is Alchemist, because Grievel's Greed is now an innate spell, and he can choose to level his battle spells in lane without sacrificing farm. I definitely want to try this hero. I want to try Axe, because they made his counter helix a set amount of attacks rather than random, and I want to try to manipulate this in lane to see if you can just like crush people by outskilling them, by making creeps attack you and then going on them when you're at the attacks to trigger. I do want to try the new Dazzle. It might be a meme, but the Ag Scepter is now anybody that gets hit by your Shadow Wave, you attack them, and you can also cast Shadow Wave on opponents. And then his ultimate now sacrifices HP to reduce the ability cooldowns that he has. So I'm thinking like Ag Scepter plus like Deso Satanic kind of build. Could be kind of memey, but it sounds pretty fun. I think Gyrocopter has a lot of carry potential again. They nerfed his homing missile, but they significantly buffed his flak cannon, so I will be trying him. A big one for me that I'm super excited to try is Legion Commander, who they gave the attack speed of press the attack and put it on overwhelming odds. So I'm thinking that she can be played as a carry where you go like 4-0-4 and you just spam overwhelming odds plus your moment of courage. You get a lot of farm off that, and it automatically casts overwhelming odds on people that you're dueling. So you no longer have to use the press the attack on yourself, then duel somebody, and like press all these buttons. I feel like they made her a lot easier to use, and her farming and like laning prowess, it's like her Q is no longer, like her attack speed and damage nuke are no longer separate abilities. So I feel like she's probably a pretty insane laner, and I really want to try her as carry especially. So another hero I want to try core, that I had mentioned I thought was really strong last patch, but it turns out he was not a summons hero, so he was not good in competitive, is Necrophos. They gave Necrophos mobility on his shard. It's still the same ability, but it's Superman Sven. But you just go to it. So it's like a miniature blink to an enemy or an ally. It's like a PA blink that casts a death pulse. It's not quite as long of a range, but giving this hero mobility, it seems really fun, and I'm definitely going to be trying him out. And I will be buying that shard at 15 minutes flat. So Nyx Assassin, another hero I really want to try as core, probably mid. He has a lot more damage from his stats because he's a universal hero, and they've replaced Mana Burn with Mind Flare, which is effectively the same thing in regards to damage, but it also does an extra 30% of damage dealt by Nyx in the past 15 seconds. So I'm thinking if I'm a core and I go on the guy, Dagon him, then Mind Flare him after like having stunned him and all that kind of stuff, now that Dagon gives spell lifesteal, and now that the way they've reworked Mind Flare, I feel like this hero has a lot of potential as a core. Not only because Dagon got reworked in his favor, but now that he's a universal hero, Dagon is all stats. He benefits from that even more than he used to. I do want to try core Omni Knight as well. So what they did for his shard is that every 6 seconds, kind of like an Echo Saber, you trigger a Hammer of Purity, which is pure damage based on your base damage. We're looking at like 300 pure damage at that point in the game, and it's a 6-second cooldown, and you heal off of it on top of your normal Hammer of Purity. So I think that there's some serious potential there. I will be trying PL. I want to try rushing his Ags. So his Ags is now his old shard is now his Ags, but better. Like his Ags is upgraded to 2 bounces, so it's like a farming tool and damage in team fights. So I want to try like laning items, treads plus Ags on PL. And then his shard is really nice. It gives him the old Doppelwalk, where he creates an illusion of himself and he goes invis. So I definitely want to try a bit of PL. Shadowblade was always a pretty nice item on him because it allowed him to prevent himself from getting jumped. So giving him that for free and not having to buy the invis portion seems really nice in the late game. I want to try Vengecore, because they made it so she's universal. All of her stat gains are way worse, but I want to try her like carry. I want to try her because if you buy like 2 circlets and 3 branches level 1, you're sitting at like 60 base damage. You skip Magic Missile and you just have your 60 base damage plus Vengeance Aura. I think she could potentially be really strong as a core when you get these Ags items and like Manta and Scotty, and these items are suddenly making you hit really hard. So I do want to try her as a core. Venno has a really fun rework. They removed his Poison Nova and put it on his Ags, and they gave him a new ability that's basically a single target Poison Nova combined with Rupture. It's like it does initial damage and then does percent base damage, and when it ends, it does the AoE. So it's like a really cool spell that I want to try out. I don't really know where I'd put him though. He's probably still an offlaner. I think Void Spirit's super broken. He's now a universal hero. Most universal heroes got their stat gains nerfed so that they don't have as much damage, and they also got their base damage nerfed, but for Void Spirit that is not the case, as you can see. So I think as a right clicker who got his base damage unchanged, he could be pretty freaking nutty from the mid lane. This is my last PSA for the patch, because I will be releasing daily content for the next like 5 or 6 days, is that Zeus's shard is the dumbest shit I have ever seen. Let's just make sure you guys see it. So when he attacks, he casts a 50% Arc Lightning, and Arc Lightning now automatically does a portion of the enemy's health from the old shard. So what happens is, level your Arc Lightning to max, and your illusions do a 20% Arc Lightning. So say you just went Treads Kaya early before 15 minutes, and then you go Dragonlance Manta on Zeus. Yes, you heard me right. I said Dragonlance Manta. Your attacks plus your illusions are now doing miniature Arc Lightnings. So if you walk around the map, this applies to creeps as well. Suddenly you are clearing creep waves, because this also gives you 100 attack range. So then we're looking at enemies, and you're now shredding them. Obviously that's a level 1 guy, but you get the idea. I think this might be one of the dumbest things they've ever added. I think it's almost certainly going to be nerfed in a matter of the next few days, in order to conserve integrity, or preserve integrity for the major. I think if this is like allowed to stay, it'll unironically get picked at the major. So I do think it's, if you want to have fun with it, I'm going to be trying to play it tomorrow, like instantly. So that's my major summary for this patch and all the things I want to try. I will be updating you guys daily for the next several days. I'm super excited about the patch. Unironically, I expressed how disappointed I was with 7.32e, but I'm actually super excited about 7.33. You may not see it, but it's also 6:50 in the morning where I just did an entire patch review. So my enthusiasm is only cloaked by my lack of sleep, but I am super excited to make more content for you guys on 7.33. Thanks for watching, everybody. Like, comment, subscribe. Peace.